Okay, everybody, welcome back to the DanaBuckler Show. My name is Dana, and I am pleased to welcome, I will say this is a long time coming. This is something that, it's one of those interesting things. My guest today is Roy MacMillan, and Roy and I have known each other for how long now, Roy?
I think you were potting maybe a year, so 14?
Yeah, 2014.
I think we started to cross paths.
Yeah, so 10 years ago. 10 years, yeah. And it's one of those interesting things where looking back, I said to myself, well, surely Roy's been a guest on my podcast at some point, because I did his show a few times. And then I kind of looked back and I said, no, actually, he's never been on my show. How do we correct that? How do we fix that? And we kind of started corresponding again about a month ago, and we just said, hey, we need to make this happen. So, Roy, let me be the first to officially welcome you to the DanaBuckler Show. It's been a long time coming, and I'm glad you're on the episode. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I want to thank you for having me on. This is bucket list stuff.
Awesome.
I've been a fan of this show for a long time. Dana and I started out about the same time. And as you guys know, his podcast made it. And if you look me up, you won't find me. Mine, I had two shows and they, ended. And it's sad. They could start up at any time, but I'm just very happy for your success. And I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. And I just want the record to show I loved Moving the Needle, your podcast that I was a guest on a couple of times. I enjoyed it. I loved, it was, how do I describe it? I mean, it was exactly that. What's moving the needle? What was important at that time? It's a real time capsule now, looking back on it. And I was glad to be a part of it. So I'm glad you're here. And something you said has really stuck with me. Just because you're not doing a podcast now doesn't mean that you don't have the wherewithal or the ability to start something back up at any time. So I am going to put a big to be continued on your podcasting career.
Well, that would be great.
So, Roy, you came up with, I thought, a pretty clever idea for a podcast episode. And I think it's really sort of in sync with what I've been doing lately. If you look back at the past few months of my show, it's been a combination of an ongoing series called 101 Movies from the 1990s You Need to Watch, and then another series called When Movies Were Movies, where we talk about films that are, frankly, at least 25 to 30 years old, if not older, in an attempt to recommend a lot of good movies to our younger audience and say, hey, there is more out there than just sequels, prequels, and remakes. There's some really clever and really good films out there. So why don't you talk a little bit about the idea you had for today's episode?
Well, I think it was an amalgamation of what you and Jason have been doing. I think I either just took something you said about something else, and I don't know who to give it credit to, but there are just a lot of movie stars out there that typically play one way. And I don't know if it was Point Break or another movie you two mentioned during your 90s movies, but you know what it was? It was Tom Cruise in Collateral.
Yeah.
And, Tom Cruise is hero, sharp left turn, here's Collateral. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of movies that have those in common. We picked out 5 for tonight. But there's a lot of movie stars that, go off their beaten path, and a lot of them you don't know about. So we just thought it was a good idea to come here and talk about a few of them.
And you mentioned Collateral, which, if you just take a second and think about it, Roy, is 20 years old. I can't even wrap my head around that. I saw that movie in the theater in 2004. And to me, it seems like I saw it 5 years ago. It's just insane. But love the idea. And speaking of Collateral, of course, one of Tom Cruise's best performances because he's so playing against type. Love it. So, No Time Like the Present. You mentioned there are 5 movies. You compiled the list. let's talk about number one.
Okay, well, the number one is most likely the one everybody in your audience has seen, except maybe a couple of cringe-worthy exceptions. This movie right now in June 2024 is on Paramount Plus, so if you're subscribing, you're vibing. The first movie is a movie that I know many of you have seen, but just listening to Dana over the years and all the stories about how people we work with haven't seen certain 90s movies, I figured it was a good one to bring up. The first movie is Point Break. It came out in 1991, directed by Catherine Bigelow.
It's an amazing film. So I guess I'm going to work on the assumption that the bad guy in this movie, the anti-hero, if you will, is the Patrick Swayze character. This is well, let's look at Patrick Swayze leading up to this. 1980s, you got him in Outsiders, Red Dawn, okay? Then we're going to get into Dirty Dancing, 1989's Roadhouse, one of the great movies of all time, 1990s Ghost. You're right, he's never played a bad guy up until this point. Brilliant.
So for those of you who haven't seen Point Break and don't want it spoiled, brand new FBI Academy graduate Johnny Utah, played by Keanu Reeves, is assigned a robbery homicide to find and arrest the dead presidents, a gang who have robbed banks in Los Angeles for several years. His partner, 22-year vet Pappas, played by Gary Busey, believes the pattern suggests the bank robbers are surfers. Utah, a former college athlete, unsuccessfully tries to surf, and then he meets a girl named Taylor, a local, who gives him lessons. As Taylor teaches Utah meets her ex-boyfriend Bodie, played by Patrick Swayze, who befriends him even though he's a fish out of water as a surfer. As he gets closer to Bodie and his crew, Utah is led to believe that they may be the dead presidents. Will he be able to catch them before they learn he's Special Agent Johnny Utah of the FBI? Well, you're going to have to watch it to figure that out.
And we will keep this spoiler free. But that is a really good plot description of the film. What's your history with Point Break? Can you remember that when it came out in 91?
I do, but I didn't see it in the theater, and I worked at a video store at the time. So, back in the day when it took 6 months from when a movie ended at the theater to get to the video store, I chomped at the bit for this to come out. Keanu Reeves was young at the time, and, Patrick Swayze's coming off Roadhouse, so those two were great, but I don't remember a lot of buzz with it back in the day. I'm sure I read about it in Entertainment Weekly, but I didn't catch it until video, and I've seen it many times since. It's one of my favorite movies. I love Patrick Swayze. I love Keanu Reeves, but I really connect with Patrick Swayze. What do you think?
Well, 1991 will forever be defined as the year that Terminator 2 Judgment Day came out. For me, I was 13 years old at the time, and that was the biggest movie in the world for me. However, I still to this day remember the buzz surrounding Point Break, particularly because Patrick Swayze did a lot of his own stunts in that movie, including some skydiving. Now, he didn't do all the skydiving in there, but there is a particular scene where you see him, the plane is in the air and he is holding on to the door, and he just lets himself go and fall out, and that was really him. I read something, he did more than 50 jumps for this movie.
I know it's hard for you, Johnny. I know you want me so bad it's like acid in your mouth. But not this time. Adios, amigo!
And that's like Tom Cruise level stunt work before Tom Cruise was doing all kinds of stunts. And so people were over the moon about that. And make no mistake about it, Patrick Swayze was the megastar in this movie. Keanu Reeves, what had he done up until this point? He had done Bill and Ted's and Parenthood, so he was not an action movie star like he is today. So many people, I think the younger crowd, are going to go back and watch that, are going to watch Point Break and say to themselves, this is a great Keanu Reeves movie. No, it was a Patrick Swayze movie. Make no mistake about it. Keanu Reeves was, nobody knew who he was. I mean, people knew who he was but he was not John Wick, not even close. Speed hadn't come out yet. The Matrix hadn't come out yet. So I'm with you. Like, the reason to watch this movie, and Keanu's good, and Pappas is amazing, but...
Me too.
Yeah, but this is Patrick Swayze's movie, in my opinion. And you know, we're keeping the spoiler free. I've kind of spoiled it already, given the subject matter of this podcast episode, which is, you know, when the good guys turn villain. We've kind of spoiled it a little bit, but he's full of charisma in this movie, and he is just I'm going to say it, just a cool guy in the film. I think this is a great pick. I think it's a great introduction to this list. So good job on this one.
Yeah, and the only thing that I want to add to your description is I don't think they wanted Keanu Reeves for this movie
no.
because of his comedy past, and you know,
well,
it's just like you said, there was no Speed at the time, and there was no John Wick. I mean, as you go backwards, it makes perfect sense that he was put in that movie. But if James Cameron wasn't a producer of that movie, I don't think you would have seen Keanu Reeves in it, because he was the one that held the belief that he should be in there and fought.
You know why? You know why, right? So, couple things. Let's talk about Catherine Bigelow just for a moment, okay? She had done a small vampire movie up until this point, and then she did a movie with Jamie Lee Curtis and Ron Silver called Blue Steel.
Blue Steel. Mm-hmm.
But she was in a relationship with James Cameron during the production of Point Break. And this is one of the reasons why Cameron came on as a producer. And when she really wanted Keanu Reeves, she said, there is something there. And the studio was like, nope. And then James Cameron backed her 100% and said, yep, Keanu is in this movie, or we walk. And that was one of the things that Catherine Bigelow, she had a real talent for picking out people and putting them in roles that you wouldn't expect to see them in.
Probably what drew me to film predominantly was its ability to be this incredible social tool, that you could reach masses of people on so many different levels. I mean, you can use it, you know, I think when films are most successful is when they're provocative, when they challenge your thinking, when they make you think about something, perhaps get you angry. I was interested in making a quote-unquote woman's action film. So I was interested in kind of a permutation on a genre that had been predominantly occupied by men, and very simply for the reason that I believe that there were certain elements like fear and self-preservation which broke down along universal lines, and I kind of wanted to sort of turn the cop genre, so to speak, on its head and put a woman at the center of it who's sort of an everyman, a character who not only women but men could identify with in the context of an action film, as opposed to the woman being sort of the girlfriend of the victim. I wanted her to be central to the story.
I knew Catherine, struggling screenwriter in Los Angeles, I guess about 8 years ago. And I always liked her scripts. I was amazed at how violent and masculinely oriented they were. She always wanted to direct. She'd made a film, which I saw with Willem, which I liked. And I loved her vampire movie very much, Near Dark. I thought it was terrific. It scared the hell out of me. And wanted to help her get another thing going, because it didn't make any money, you know. It was distributed very badly. So we gave her a little hand with Blue Steel. I think my involvement helped get it made.
Her approach, I'd say it was sort of guerrilla filmmaking. I mean, she's very much in there, sort of taking great control on, kind of like a general. I knew it was going to be a very stylish film from the way she wrote it. There were days where I thought, what is she doing? If you see the film, that's what she was doing. I had never been in a film where the editing process and the style of the photography would be so specific. And really there would be no way, I mean, if you'd seen dailies, you wouldn't have known what she was doing. It's how you put it together.
Put the gun down!
Get out of my face, baby.
Put down the gun! I said put the gun down now!
I think in one sense we're motivated by violence or resistance to violence. I mean, it's, by profound emotional response. That's a better way of maybe putting it. And I think film, when it's most successful, can create profound emotional response.
She had a real talent for that.
Yeah, she did a great job. I mean, there is nobody in this movie, not even Anthony Kiedis, that you would say he doesn't belong there or she doesn't belong there.
No, she's great. Now, I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up the 2015 remake, Point Break. I have some interesting thoughts on this film. I just want to say real quickly, as a standalone movie, I think the 2015 Point Break is a very fun, watchable film. I think that they changed the name of a few characters and decided to call the movie Point Break. I don't believe the script was written as a sequel to Point Break, but I feel like we were right at that beginning stages of everything had to be a remake and intellectual property that people knew. The stunt work in the Point Break, I hate saying that, remake is incredible. There's some wingsuit stuff that's going on in that movie which was done for real, which I think is worth watching. Have you ever seen the remake, Roy?
Well, this is where I have to come clean to you. I bought it thinking I bought the other one.
Oh.
Because, I bought it in Ultra HD and they didn't have the cast list that I saw, but I've heard you complain. Well, not complain. Complain's not fair, but you held pretty tough for a long time that you weren't going to watch the remake.
Yep.
So I went out of my way to make sure you didn't know that I accidentally bought it.
And then I eventually ended up watching it, and I was like, oh, this is actually really good. It's actually a really fun movie.
It is in my cloud on iTunes, so I guess I will have to check it out eventually. Especially when I saw Roadhouse and it didn't make me terribly mad.
I know. That's the thing. That new Roadhouse movie it wasn't bad. I knew it wouldn't be either. It had Doug Liman directing it.
Well, that's the only reason that I wanted to see it. I'm neutral on Conor McGregor. I'm not an MMA fan. I knew he was going to be a new actor. I actually did stand about 50 feet from him once. He was in the Savannah Parade because he just opened a new bar. But I don't like Jake Gyllenhaal. Like, there are just certain people who everyone loves that for some reason, like, their charm won't get past my defenses. And I really didn't want to see it because of him. But I will say, like, it was a pretty good Doug Liman movie. They took a lot of chances, like the kind of a first-person fighter vibe, but I'm just glad he did it kind of as a good bad movie. Like, I could really see that take hold as a midnight cult movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. But, at the same time, there's still the original Roadhouse, which kicks ass.
Hank. Say, let her dance. Woo! 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 Come on, baby. Woo! Hey, look, pal, we don't want you. Come on, motherfucker, back. Come on. Come on, motherfucker. Escort this gentleman to the door. Did you see that shit?
Who is that guy?
He's good. He's real good. The name, Stallone.
Absolutely. So what's number 2 on your list?
Okay, number 2 is a movie that is pretty hard to find. I know you can buy it on DVD. I'm sure they have thousands of them somewhere. This movie is called Arlington Road. It came out in 1999, directed by Mark Pellington, who isn't a big name. He's more, if you watch music videos, you'd recognize a lot of his work. I'm kind of curmudgeonly about music, but I did recognize a lot of what he did, especially in excess. So I can't wait to watch that. He hasn't made a large number of films, but I mean, I can't think of any of, he didn't make any big ones. And Arlington Road is about two families, the Langs and the Faradays, and they become fast friends after Michael Faraday, played by Jeff Bridges, rushes young Brady Lang to the ER after finding him on the street after a freak accident. Oliver Lang, who's played by Tim Robbins, is an engineer who improves shopping malls. Michael begins to see and hear things that make him doubt the Langs are who they say they are. Will Oliver catch on to Michael's inquiries, and how will the doubts affect their friendship?
All right. Now, I'm going to be very delicate in talking about Arlington Road, okay? And there might be a couple of reasons why this movie is not readily available. And I think, and I'm dancing around this, Roy, because I'm not going to get into major plot points of the film, but it was 1999 when the film came out. This is a post-Oklahoma City bombing film. So Oklahoma City bombing happened in 1995. I remember that because that was my birthday. And so that was, you can maybe draw some parallels of where I'm going with this about the themes of the movie. But of course, something's going to happen far, far more devastating 2 years post this film, which may make it one of the reasons why this movie isn't readily available right now, because the subject matter is still something that people have issues with 20-something years later. These are all just speculations on my part. I don't know for sure. It could just be simply a rights issue. I mean, it's a really good movie, but it didn't do great numbers at the box office, because it's a depressing movie with depressing subject matter, but phenomenal performances. And I'm hard pressed to even talk about which character is the bad guy.
Never did like that picture. You know me, Michael? You think you know me? Yeah, you know me better than I know myself, don't you? Kansas City Star, I saw you. You want to tell me something I don't know?
I know what I read.
You know a 16-year-old kid. You don't know me. You know a kid at 16. Damn you! You've been a guest in my house!
You're a guest in mine, Fenimore. Bill, Will, William, what do I call you?
Who the hell you think you are judging me? What gives you the right? You ever worked on a farm, Michael?
But you're right. We are very used to seeing, who ends up being the bad guy in, a much nice guy role. So
all the time.
So I love this movie because, again, this actually, and when I do put this on the list of when movies were movies, I will give you full credit for bringing it back to my attention. But Arlington Road is, again, here's an R-rated movie made for adults. It's essentially not a whodunit, but a will they do it type of plot. I applaud this movie for having the balls to go with an ending you probably wouldn't have expected. So many movies, have the happy ending, or at the very end, the crime is foiled at the very end. And all I'm going to say is this movie has the guts to go in a different direction. That's all I'll say. I'm trying to stay super spoiler free.
But yes, you are led to believe that there may be some evil in Tim Robbins, who, was Andy Dufresne in The Shawshank Redemption. And I don't think he'd ever played a bad guy before then. He's certainly, Jeff Bridges' character is good or bad. He definitely has some anger about his wife's death. But back in 1999, Tim Robbins, there wasn't a whiff of bad on any of his characters. Now, Jeff Bridges played some bad guys before. I think, I don't have the list in front of me. Just the fact that either or both of them could be bad in this My only hesitation about this movie, and I really wished I hadn't read some things after I rewatched it. If it was a mini series, this would have been a lot better. You know, I kind of view movies as whether they're worth a night out or if they're just a rainy day movie.
I like that.
This is certainly a rainy day movie. The performances are great. Like Joan Cusack is in it, and she's great. This wasn't a star-studded show.
So Arlington Road is a film that, like you said, not really streaming anywhere right now.
I think it might be on Stars.
This is a good film, and I'm glad you brought it up. It's definitely a good watch, and Bridges is exceptional in the movie.
Confirmed, it's on Stars.
Okay, perfect. So if you don't have a subscription to Stars, I see them advertised all the time. $2.99 for the first 6 months. Spend the $3. Watch Arlington Road.
Or sometimes you can get a free trial if you haven't taken advantage.
Exactly. All right, that was a good one. All right, what's number 3 on your list?
All right, this is probably the second most widely watched movie on my list. The movie is Insomnia, which came out in 2002. I think it's my only 21st century film right now. And it was directed by Sir Christopher Nolan. This is a remake of another movie, the Norwegian film. It was also called Insomnia. And that came out 5 years before. And the spoiler-free description is Al Pacino plays Los Angeles detective Will Dormer, a 30-year cop who is weary from police work. Dormer's old friend, Chief Nyback, takes advantage of an internal affairs investigation to call Dormer and his partner, Hap, to an Alaskan small town called Nightmute to help solve the murder case of a local teenage girl before the case gets cold. Upon arrival, he meets young detective Ellie Burr, played by Hilary Swank, who happens to be a super fan of Dormer's reputation of solving tough cases. Dormer was tired to start the film, but the conservative summer sunlight adds to his inability to sleep. This affects him more as time in the film adds up. Dormer begins to make some questionable choices in his hunt for Kate Connell's killer.
All right. Wow. Lots to unpack with this movie. And again, I am hesitant to even name which one of those actors is playing, against type, if you will. But Insomnia, so, again, a film I saw in the theater. All right.
Me too.
I can openly admit that when I saw the film, I think I had seen Memento, but didn't realize that Christopher Nolan, the director of Memento, had done Insomnia. I was just going to see an Al Pacino and Robin Williams movie. And I knew that it was Robin Williams in a much more serious role than something that he would typically do. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to see the film. Had no idea at the time that I was watching a film by someone who is arguably going to become one of the great directors in film history. And when you go back and watch it, you can see flashes of who Nolan would become. Having said all that, love the movie. The parts where Al Pacino is trying to get sleep, the scene where he's laying in the bed and his eyes shut, and his eyes shut, and you're like, oh, thank God he's finally going to get some sleep, and then the phone rings. And you're just like, no.
Yeah. This is always the worst time of night for me. Too late for yesterday, too early for tomorrow.
What do you want?
I'm sorry about the tape recorder. I had to make sure you'd follow through. I know this is hard for you.
I'll follow through.
I've been thinking it over. I should tell him about Randy.
I think that's a bad idea, Walter.
But he's a patsy, Will. And besides, he deserves it. You should have heard the shit Kay told me about him, how he abused her.
Yeah, but these are cops, Walter. They're not children. You don't just throw something like that in their lap. Leave Randy to me. I'll push him toward Randy when the time is right. You understand?
Yeah, but we don't have the gun, Will. How are we going to convince him he's guilty if we don't have that? Huh? I mean, unless I tell him.
Did you keep the dress?
Dress?
Kay's dress. Yeah. Her nail clippings. What'd you do with those things?
That's great. The dress. We could use that. That's even better than the gun. We just have to think of a place where he could have taken the body.
Where'd you take her? I mean, she died in the cabin, right?
Yeah.
So where'd you take her to clean her up?
You don't want to think about that, Will. This is tough enough for you already.
Well, it was an accident, right?
Yeah. I didn't mean to kill her, Will. You know that, don't you?
I know. And what happened?
Yeah. She called and said that she and Randy had a fight. And she wanted to come over and talk. And I said, meet me at our place. It's the cabin at the beach. And she comes over. She's distraught, a little drunk. And she starts telling me about how Randy and Tanya are carrying on. I really wanted to comfort her, hold her. I kissed her and got a little excited. She started laughing at me.
No, like you're so on his side. And I love a movie that takes me to a way of life that I'm not familiar with. Like this whole concept of the sun doesn't go down in this part of Alaska. Ironically, a buddy of mine sent me a text message because his daughter is married to a gentleman who's in the military, and he's stationed out there in Alaska. And he took a picture from 2 a.m. and it looked like it was the middle of the day. And so I think it's a terrific film, and I'm being super vague about the plot details of the film, except to say it's Nolan, and he's great. Al Pacino is great. Robin Williams is great. Hilary Swank is great. And this is a great addition to the list, but I'm not going to go any further as to why it's a great addition.
Yeah, I agree. I had seen Memento, so if I remember right, I did know that it was the same guy. But if you go back and you look at his filmography, it was just Insomnia, Memento. Before then, it was a movie called The Following, or maybe just Following. And that movie was 69 minutes long.
Yeah.
There was no Dark Knight. There was no Tenet, no Interstellar. I mean, this was ground floor Nolan. And honestly, I think it's my favorite Nolan movie.
Well, that's a bold statement, but one that I think you can defend.
Well, absolutely. Well, I'm not like movies like Tenet. I tried watching it. I was very excited because it was a brand new movie that came out during COVID. You know, the theaters took the best precautions they could. So I bought a seat, and like, I don't get wrapped up in the movies that I have to watch 5 times to understand. So, and if that's your jam, by all means, I wish I had your taste buds. Like, if you feel differently, that's not a bad thing. This is not a trait I want. I just don't like, I like the Batman movies. The more I watch The Dark Knight Rises, the better I like it. I used to not like Batman Begins as much, but the more I watch that, the more I catch things. Reasons that I love Insomnia so much is, I mean, first of all, Alaska is a character just as much as Dormer and Finch and Ellie Burr and Hap and everybody else. Like, the scenery is gorgeous. You know, you feel really cold when somebody steps into the water.
Yeah.
Like, I also like the murkiness of Dormer. Like, he's supposed to be the great cop, but he puts his own weights on the balance of justice too. And you'll see that early in the movie. This really isn't a spoiler, but you know, you just go through wondering, is this guy any better than the people he's trying to catch?
Yeah. Insomnia, where's the easiest place for people to find that film right now?
I think it's on Showtime right
okay.
now. So if you have Paramount Plus with Showtime, you'll be able to see it, but you could rent it for under $3.
Yeah, and that's a strong recommend. That's a strong recommend for renting for the listeners out there. You know, of the movies we've talked about so far, you know, Point Break is amazing. Arlington Road is definitely, you know, worth a watch. But if you haven't seen Insomnia, I mean, this is, like you said, Nolan at his best.
And I'm a little jealous if you haven't seen it and are about to.
Yeah, and if I could just say one thing about Nolan and his movies, I was right there with you with, like, I'll go on record and say I respect Inception. I respect it for what it is, for the amount of work, the amount of layers that went into making that film, and I get all that. The film did not grab me the way it grabbed a lot of other people. And I remember,
Same.
and I remember being very excited for Interstellar. And then for me, I was into that movie, and then the third act kind of just like, well, what are we doing? Okay, this is super complicated. And I remember, and I've made no excuses or no bones about it, I love The Dark Knight Rises.
It says the leap to freedom is not about strength.
My body makes the jump.
Survival is the spirit, the soul.
My soul is as ready to escape as my body.
Fear is why you fail.
No, I'm not afraid. I'm angry.
One of my favorite Nolan films. I've been saying that for years. But when Dunkirk was getting ready to come out, I remember seeing the trailers and going, oh, here we go. Christopher Nolan is going to tell a straightforward narrative. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking for a good... Christopher Nolan is going to make a movie about something that happened in World War II. I am in. I am so in for this movie. And that anyone who's seen Dunkirk know that it's one of the bigger head scratchers out there. Like, wait, what? There's 3 stories going on. One's during an hour, one's a day, one's a week. What is You're right, Roy. I think sometimes he makes things overly complicated on purpose. And like you, I did see Tenet in the theater, and then I've subsequently seen that movie about 5 times. I think I get it. But I'm not 100% sure. I just want to listen, because it's my show and I can ask these questions. We can go a little off subject. Oppenheimer, what did you think?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen Interstellar, and I haven't seen Dunkirk either. I hated Inception, and it brings up an idea if you want to do it with someone else or you want to bring me back. Like, I think Inception could be an interesting second chance style show.
Oh, okay.
Because I did not. I watched that movie and I was like, yeah, it was fun to watch, but I just couldn't get into it the way, Twitter and
If I remember correctly, I didn't even stay for the whole thing when I saw it in the theater. If I remember correctly, I got up and actually left and said, I'll finish this when it comes out, video on demand. Because I was just like, it is what it is. Of all the movies that I mentioned, I still think Dunkirk is the one that you should watch. Because I still think, given that he does play with time, and maybe if you go into it and know that there are 3 stories that will eventually intersect with each other. One story takes place over an hour, one takes place over a day, and one takes place over a week, and they all kind of intersect at the end. If you knew that going in, I think I would have had a better experience upon the first time seeing the film. I think it's a really well done film. And
I think I need to see all of them.
Yeah.
And I will definitely take that under advisement, because when I listen to your rules for watching Halloween Ends, I'm on the list of people who liked it, and I wouldn't have without your introduction.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. This is audio only, but I'm wearing a little shirt right now as an homage to the David Gordon Green trilogy of Halloween films, which, for as vocal as I am about sequels, prequels, and remakes, for some reason I just love those 3 movies.
Yeah, I do too. The second one, is a little tougher to love than the others, but Halloween 2018 was so great.
Yeah, shockingly good, Roy. It was shockingly good. I remember seeing it. I had no interest in seeing it, and then when I finally saw it, I was like, well, shit, this is really good. But okay, we're getting off subject.
We're doing a great job of that.
No, that's fine. That's standard practice for the Dana-Buckler show. There's no rules here. There's no producer hovering over us saying, keep it on track.
My kind of place.
Yes. So we have, all right. So that was Insomnia, phenomenal film. what's next on your list?
Our next one is another 1990s film. It's called Pacific Heights. It came out in 1990. It was directed by John Schlesinger, who also directed Marathon Man and Midnight Cowboy. New homeowners, Patty, played by Melanie Griffith, and Drake, played by Matthew Modine, buy a home with 2 additional rental units. Carter Hayes, played by Michael Keaton, manages to slip between the discussed safeguards. The couple, Carter Hayes, played by Michael Keaton, manages to slip between the discussed safeguards the couple created to avoid taking on a bad tenant. Will the scales of justice tip towards Patty and Drake before they lose everything? As you probably figured out, Michael Keaton is the bad guy, or is he?
Mm-hmm.
Fresh off of Batman, and before then, The Dream Team, Clean and Sober, and Beetlejuice. And before Beetlejuice, he did a bunch of irreverent, fun comedies before then.
Yeah. Mr. Mom comes to mind.
Gung Ho.
Gung Ho, yeah. Pacific Heights is a fascinating movie to watch in 2024. Because what I remember seeing it, and I would have saw this on home video. This is not a movie in 1990 that my parents would have taken 12-year-old Dana to see in the theater. That just wasn't happening. But so I remember probably saw it a couple years later. It would have been a rental for me. And I think even at 13 or 14 years old, the subject matter and the weight of what they were going through, what the couple was going through, was just going over my head. Like, just none of it was really making sense to me. Watching it now as an adult, oh, do you get frustrated? And it's one of those movies where you ask yourself the question, how would I handle this situation if I was in their shoes? And Keaton is diabolical. I'm saying that quietly because he's good in this movie as well. Like, he's really, really good. It's fascinating to watch. You mentioned the safeguards. It's fascinating to watch him elude them right in the beginning. And because he's such a smooth talker. You know, he's literally got money in his hand. I'll get you guys. You know, it's just so good. Love the film. Oh boy, you're not making a movie like this in 2024. This right here, you could make a whole season of television on this story. I think this is kind of in the vein of, you could do a 5 or 6 episode miniseries on Netflix. Because there's so many different directions this story can go, but ultimately, and I'll keep it spoiler free, I love the way the show. I love the way the film ends.
Yeah, and you feel like you got some bonus movie for sure. I'll just leave it at that.
Absolutely. So,
but it's also hard because, you know, in 1990 you were 13, I was 16, or. No, were you? You were 12.
I was 12. Yeah.
And I was 15. So, like, we couldn't even, like, fathom being a homeowner.
Yeah.
You know, we were just, this is a guy who, he's doing some upsetting things, but, like, you're right. The ramifications were crazy.
And it also speaks to, you know, and you see it in the news all the time, and about squatters and squatters' rights. And you hear these stories about people that go on a vacation and they come home and there's literally a family moved into their house, and you call the police to get these people out, and the squatters have more rights than the homeowners. Like the movie kind of reminds me a little bit of that, of situations that people are dealing with today. Now,
and 34 years later, they haven't lifted a finger to fix it either.
Except here in the state of Florida, they have. The governor just signed a new law that fast tracks squatters out of your house. And it's the first. I'm not going to get political, but it's one of those laws. I'm like, I actually agree with that. Pacific Heights, great film, great recommendation. So, Roy, Pacific Heights. What's the easiest way for somebody to find this right now?
It's on Stars and Video on Demand.
Okay. All right, so that brings us to the fifth and final movie on your list. Roy, what do you got?
Well, this one's going to raise some hackles because of the actor that I'm about to discuss. My fifth and final movie is Payback, which came out in 1999.
Yeah.
And the actor that I'm talking about is Mel Gibson, who before Payback had been in order Braveheart, Pocahontas, Ransom, Conspiracy Theory, and Lethal Weapon 4. So at this time, Mel Gibson was America's sweetheart. He was the Dallas Cowboys. He was he was tried and true, one of the actors that people paid good money to see with almost everything he came out with. So I'm sure I want to give you a chance to say some opinions before I go in the description, or do you want me to go in the description?
Well, go ahead and do the description, because immediately I just want to get into. I have so many thoughts on this film because it was one that I saw in the theater in '99, and I'll let you do the description, then I'll share my thoughts.
Well, Payback was adapted from a book called The Hunter by Richard Stark. It was also previously made as a movie, Point Blank, with Lee Marvin back in 1967. Mel Gibson plays a thief named Porter, who works with his wife Lynn and another thief named Resnick to rob a gang of Chinese money launderers. Resnick lies about the score and sets up a double cross, which caused Lynn to shoot Porter. Porter is presumed dead. After 5 months, Porter returns to collect his half of the score. Resnick uses the haul to buy into a crime family, the Syndicate, and because he paid them, he can't repay Porter anything. Porter attempts to recoup the money from further up the Syndicate's ladder, causing the Syndicate, the Chows, who was the Chinese gang that was stolen from, dirty cops, and other criminals to want Porter dead.
So, let me just say, for all the reasons that you mentioned prior to going through the description, talking about who Mel Gibson was at that point, all right, from Mad Max to Martin Riggs, Mel Gibson was all over the place, talking about everything from Forever Young to Bird on a Wire to all the Lethal Weapon films. You mentioned it, Braveheart. There's A-list actors, and then there was Mel Gibson. He was the biggest movie star, period. I mean, he's up there, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts, they're all in that discussion, but make no mistake about it, Mel Gibson, massively popular. So to see him in this role, I won't say it was a head scratcher, but it was just, whoa, wait a second. Because you kept expecting the turn to come, where he turns out to be this charming, affable, charismatic guy, but that never happens in this film. He is determined. He has a plan. And I'll go ahead and say that this is a dark comedy. I will say there are some comedic elements to this film that will cause you to laugh out loud. I will also preface this by saying this is an incredibly violent movie in some parts. And I think it's great. I recently rewatched it. I probably haven't seen the film in 15 years, and I rewatched it maybe about 2 months ago, just on a whim. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to watch like the first 10 minutes, and, if I'm not into it, I'm not into it, and just watch the whole thing in one sitting. And I was like, this movie is badass.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I want to see Mr. Carter.
And who are you?
Tell him I'm the guy that whacked Val Resnick.
I'm sorry, didn't copy, repeat. Right. Mr. Carter, we'll see you. Turn around so I can frisk you.
Bravo. Sit down. My compliments. They were two of my best.
Nah, they lull too easy.
There's something you want from me.
Val Resnick gave you $130,000.
Paid us. It was a debt.
$70,000 of it is mine. I want it back.
I'm sorry, Resnick told me, but I seem to have misplaced your name.
Porter.
Porter, right. I won't forget it again. The outfit is not unreasonable, Porter. But no corporation in the world would agree to what you're asking.
What about Fairfax? Will he give me my money?
Resnick told you quite a bit, didn't he? Fairfax will tell you the same thing I have. We're not authorized to do things like this.
Who is? Who makes the decisions?
Well, a committee would make a decision in this case.
No. One man. You go high enough, you always come to one man. Who?
Yes.
Mr. Bronson, I have Mr. Carter on the line.
Put him through.
Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Carter, how's business?
Well, business has been pretty good up till now.
Hang on, Carter. Look at that green box, Johnny.
Are you kidding me? Is it the convertible?
You thought I forgot, didn't you? Having a happy birthday, son.
You kidding me? This car? And Nick's got us ringside at the championship fight tonight.
It's gonna be a good one, too. My money's on Rankin.
No, I don't think so. I think Hicks is favored.
It's got nothing to do with this, son.
Well, I gotta get going. Thanks.
Happy birthday. Drive safe.
You got it, Dad.
Sorry, Carter, what is it?
I have a problem. There's a man in my office with a gun who says that he's going to kill me if we don't pay him back $130,000 that one of our lieutenants stole from him.
It's 70. Look, how much is this guy Carter worth to you?
What do you mean?
Well, either I get my money or I'll kill Carter.
Are you threatening me?
I'm not threatening you, I'm threatening Carter.
An audacious man. Who are you?
My money, yes or no?
No. Carter? 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 What's going on there?
You just don't get it, do you, you dumb fuck?
Carter, talk to me. Carter?
Call Fairfax and tell him I just croaked Carter. And he's next.
And after that, I'm coming to get you. Are you out of your fucking mind? You just dug your own grave.
And it feels small and contained, even though there's a lot of characters. It also feels like a very tight and precise story. And I have to say, when you mentioned this one on your list, I was like, hell yeah, great pick. Great movie.
One thing that I would say is this movie kind of made the audience feel like the fish out of water because of how bad Porter was in the movie. We won't go into it, but just the things he does to, cheat people and trick people, and these were people who did nothing to him. They were a means to the end to get to the next level on his way to whatever final boss he needed to get his money back.
Well, I like the opening part of the film where it shows him kind of rebuild, where he pickpockets the guy, steals his wallet, takes that wallet, goes to the bank, goes to the pawn shop, buys the watch. Buys the watches, pawns them at the. He goes through this whole series of events, and then eventually, he's at the restaurant and the waiter's coming to him and saying, hey, this credit card, it's not accepting the card. And he's like, run it again. And he's counting out money right then and there. And when the waiter comes back, he's gone. And I'm just like, it had shades of The Sting there just for a brief moment. And then all of a sudden it was just like, oh, this is setting up that he doesn't give a shit about anyone. He just wants his money back.
It was also like Carter Hayes when he first meets Drake. He had all that money, looked like he was ready to pay. So why the heck not give it another try?
Yep, absolutely.
But I watched them in reverse, so I never caught that.
Yeah. There are some really challenging scenes in Payback. So I do want to caution everyone out there that I was working at a movie theater when this movie came out. I was working part-time, and this was one of 2 movies in 1999 that I saw people walk out of on a regular basis because of the subject matter. So I want to be very cautious and tell people this is an interesting film. I border on calling it fun, but it's kind of a fun movie if you can handle and stomach the violence. The other movie, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, that people were walking out of in droves was the Nicolas Cage film 8mm. I mean, it was one of those things where I'm at the theater and I'm seeing people buying tickets and I'm saying to myself, I'm sizing people up going, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. They're not going to make it through. And then sure enough, within 45 minutes, people are coming out screaming at me. How could you show something like that? I'm like, yeah, ma'am, I don't make the movies. So, but yeah, Payback.
You bought the ticket.
Yeah. So I dare say half the people that bought tickets to 8mm never actually finished the film. Mel Gibson. This is 1999. Okay. He's a couple years away from, let's see, he's going to do The Passion of the Christ. Is that 05, I think? 04, 05, somewhere around there.
Sounds about right.
I don't know if a lot of people know that he's a really accomplished director. I mean, he directed Braveheart. He directed Apocalypto, Passion of the Christ, Hacksaw Ridge. I think he does The Patriot the following year from Payback. He's going to get into a whole series of situations where, by today's standards, nobody would even know who he is. I'm not condoning his behavior at all. In fact, a lot of his behavior is despicable and deplorable. But at the same time, the question becomes, can you separate the art from the artist? That's become the new question of the day.
And it seems like he's taken steps to fix what was broken in his life at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when he came back, it wasn't as offensive as maybe Kevin Spacey.
Yeah. Who
because nothing Mel Gibson did seemed to go beyond words.
Exactly. You're exactly correct. Unfortunately, a lot of those words were recorded, and we were able to
and hateful and deplorable and never should have been said. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
He's not the only one, but he's the quintessential example because of his off the charts fame.
Exactly. It's one of those, that old saying, never meet your heroes. For a lot of people, what happened to Mel Gibson was a reality slap across the face. It's like, wait a second, this beloved actor of the 80s and 90s who we all cherished has said some pretty reprehensible things. And a lot of people, unfortunately, even to this day, have never been able to get past it, even though he has come out and acknowledged what he's done and has attempted to do better and has had for the past, at least 10, 11 years, just quietly been doing his thing. He is slated to be directing the next Lethal Weapon film. Let's see if that happens.
Wow. Somebody had to. Dick Donner died.
He did.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, he did. Well, Roy, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, and I don't know if you want to twist this in a little earlier, but Payback had a really sneaky good cast. Mel Gibson, of course, Maria Bello, David Paymer, who was one of my favorite fat guys, Chris Christopherson, William Devane, Bill Duke, Lucy Liu, who was so young at the time, they put her middle name of Alexis in the credits, and John Glover.
Yeah, there was a ton of people in that movie. A ton. It was, that movie represents the end of an era of, the 1990s. That was a time when, the 90s, and I sound like a broken record at this point, where studios would let you just make a movie like that. Hey, sure, here's $50 million. Go make your crazy violent crime, thriller. Cool. And we'll put it out in the theater.
Just don't stop at R.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Perfect. Well, listen, Roy, this was a lot of fun, and really, thank you for coming up with this list. And I know you put a lot of work into it, and I think it was a phenomenal list, and I think we should definitely do this again sometime soon.
I would love to. You just put up I'm fat, so you could put up the fat signal, and I'll come running.
Are you active on social media these days?
I'm on it. I don't use it a whole lot. Twitter gets me in trouble sometimes.
Okay.
But I just changed my handle to Roy the Movie Guy.
Okay.
On X, and I think I'm Roy Mac75 on Instagram. I would love to talk movies with people. I don't know if you let people borrow your fans, but I would love to talk movies, and honestly, I can't wait to come back. Like I said, this was bucket list stuff, and it did not disappoint.
Oh, that's awesome. And again, it was just one of those things where I was actually quite shocked that you had never done the show, because we've podcasted together before on a couple of occasions. So I was just kind of like, oh yeah, Roy's been on the show before. Actually, no, he hasn't. We got to straighten this out. So Roy, again, thank you so much for doing the show, and look forward to having you back, my friend.
Thank you. I look forward to being back.
Awesome. Absolutely. And for everyone listening, if you want to catch up with me on social media, I'm on X at DanaBuckler Show. I'm on Instagram at the DanaBuckler. Email me at thedanabucklershow@gmail.com. And for Roy, my name is Dana, and thank you so much for listening.